Hey everyone, welcome back to Katie's Favorite Recipes. Today I've got 5 great casserole dishes that I think you all are going to love. These are delicious. They're perfect for weeknight dinners or just any time. These are really easy to make and they are the perfect comfort meal you're looking for with this cooler weather coming in. So I think you all are going to love these. Let's go ahead and get started now. Starting off with my sausage ravioli casserole. I am going to start browning 1 pound of breakfast sausage. If you're new to my channel, I do like to make recipes that are easy, that anybody can do, but that are also delicious. And I like a lot of stuff to make leftovers, so if you don't want leftovers, you can always cut these down. I just like to use leftovers the next night or for the next day for lunches. I like to keep my recipes simple, budget friendly, and quick. Now my sausage is finished. I've strained it. My casserole dish is prepared, and I am going to go ahead and add in one 24-ounce jar of my favorite spaghetti sauce. It doesn't matter what kind. For extra flavor, I'm actually going to go in with some Italian seasoning and some oregano. That's optional. If you see any seasonings that I use that you don't like, just leave them out and make it the way you want that your family will enjoy. We're going to set that to the side now, and we are going to start mixing up our cheese mixture. So we're going to do one 15-ounce tub of original ricotta cheese. After we pour that in there, we're going to do 1/4 cup of plain Greek yogurt. If you prefer sour cream, feel free to substitute that out for sour cream. I just really like plain Greek yogurt instead. After that, I'm going to get a bag of finely shredded Parmesan cheese, and I'm going to measure out about 1/3 of a cup of that, and I'm just going to add that into this mixture as well. Next, I'm going to add some seasoning to this. So I'm going to use the Kinder Garlic Parmesan seasoning. This does have salt in it, so keep that in mind if you use this. If you don't want to use this, you can just simply do just garlic powder. And I'm going to do about 1/2 teaspoon of this seasoning, so you could do about 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder if you do it like that. We are going to mix that up really well until it's well incorporated, and then we're going to get our 25-ounce bag of cheese ravioli, and this is still frozen. I did not thaw it out, and we are going to dump that in there and mix that up onto our cheese ravioli. That way everything gets evenly coated. This way we make sure that each little square of ravioli gets covered in the cheese mixture and gets a lot of good flavor on it. But once we finish mixing that up, we're going to take this and we are going to dump it into our sprayed casserole dish, and we're going to lay this out evenly on the bottom of that. Just kind of work with it because some of them are stuck together where they're frozen, so you can use your spoon and kind of break them apart, but it's really not a big deal. And then we're going to go over top of this with our sausage and spaghetti sauce mixture. We just want to pour that over the top of this and spread it out evenly. I didn't actually mix this, I just layered it on top of each other and spread it out evenly over the top to make sure everything's good and covered and you don't really see a whole lot of the ravioli stuff under it, but it is going to come through a little bit and that is fine. And once we do that, we're going to top this with cheese. I'm using finely shredded mozzarella cheese. You can do a mixture of Parmesan and mozzarella if you want to do that, or you can just do mozzarella, but we're going to lightly cover the top of this with about, I'd say, a cup of finely shredded mozzarella. You can add more or less depending on, how cheesy you like it. Once I get the cheese on the top the way I like it and I get it evenly spread out and get as much as I want on there, I am going to go ahead and put this in my oven. So I've had my oven preheating. I'm doing it at 350 for about 40 to 45 minutes. You can check it throughout and see. And then this is done. I baked it uncovered and this was so good. It was easy to throw together. It did not take long at all. And this actually reheated really well whenever I made leftovers. So I really like that about it as well. But I think you all will love this. Enjoy! Next, we're going to be making a chicken and cornbread casserole recipe. This was really good and it was super easy to throw together. So I've got about 2 pounds of cut up chicken breast here. I'm just going to season that to taste. I'm using salt, pepper, and then I'm also going to do some Kinder's caramelized onion butter seasoning. And then I'm going to do some Kinder's garlic parmesan seasoning. These are both optional, all of this is, but these added a lot of good flavor. They were delicious. So once I do that, I'm just going to stir this up and I'm going to let it cook. While that's cooking, I am going to keep my eye on it, but I'm going to go over here to a bowl and I'm going to start mixing up this cream mixture. So I've got 1 can of condensed cream of chicken soup, and that's just the standard 10.5 ounce can. And then next I'm going to add in 1 cup of plain Greek yogurt. I'm using just the little Chobani cup. This is almost a cup, but it's a little over, so I've got a little bit left I can have for a snack or whatever later. You can do sour cream instead if you want, but I'm also going to add in a 1/2 cup of milk, and then I'm going to do a 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Once I pour that in there, I'm going to stir this up really well to make sure that it's all good and mixed up fully. And then I'm going to go back to my chicken that has finished cooking at this point, and I'm going to add that into this cream of chicken soup and all of that I just mixed up together. I'm just going to add that right into that bowl and stir that up really well to make sure that my chicken is coated in everything. And then once I do that, I am going to go ahead and get about a cup of sharp shredded cheddar cheese. If you want to use a different kind of cheese, that's fine. I'm going to dump in about a cup of that into this, and I'm going to do my other cup after a while. I'll show you that in just a minute, but we're going to stir that up really well and make sure that the cheese gets evenly mixed into that. And then we're going to go over and get our 9x13. I have prepared that and sprayed it, that way it's easier to clean up, and I'm going to dump my chicken right into that and evenly layer it into the bottom of this pan. You want to make sure when you're layering this into the bottom of your casserole dish that it is pushed out evenly so you don't see any of the dish shining through. That way with each scoop that you scoop out, you're getting a full scoop of chicken and everything like that evenly. And that will help this cook better and faster. Once we have finished that, we're going to go over here to our bowl and start mixing up our cornbread mixture. So I have took that same bowl and just lightly rinsed and wiped it out. And I'm going to add 1 can of this sweet cream corn. Now this is different than the whole kernel corn that you get in the can. This is the sweet corn cream style. And then next I'm going to add in 1/4 cup of melted butter. Now I've got my box of Jiffy corn muffin mix, and I'm just going to pour that right into there. And we've also done 1 egg into this, and we're just going to mix this up really well until all of the corn muffin mix has been mixed in and you can't see the powdery stuff anymore, but it's still going to be lumpy from the corn. So once we finish mixing that up, we're going to layer that on top of our chicken. We're not going to mix it all together. We're just going to layer it over the top of it. You just want to take the back of a spoon or a spatula or something like that and just smooth this over the top and just get it as flat and smooth as possible. That way it'll come out with a cooked even top and it will all cook at the same time. And then once we finish doing that, we're going to add in our sharp shredded cheddar cheese. I'm going to do about a cup of that over the top, and once we finish spreading that over it and get it evened out, we are going to stick this in the oven. I've got my oven preheated to 400 degrees, and we're going to do about 30 to 45 minutes depending on your oven. And that's it. Once this is done and golden brown at the top, it's finished cooking. Or you can test this with a toothpick by sticking a toothpick down in it, and if it comes out clean, you know it's done. But that's it. This is super good, and I hope you all enjoy. We're going to be doing our cheesy hamburger casserole. So for this, I've got 2 pounds of hamburger meat here, and I'm just going to chop that up into fine pieces and cook that until it's done. I'm also going to season it with optional seasonings, Montreal steak seasoning, onion powder, and some garlic powder, and this is all just to taste, so we're going to go ahead and season it with that, and then we are going to stir it up and finish cooking it. I decided that I wanted to add some more of those seasonings again, so I went ahead and went back over it with all of those seasonings I just mentioned. Feel free to use whatever kind of seasonings you want on your hamburger. And once we do that and we finish cooking it, we're going to strain it and then take it out and add in our onion. If I had have been thinking though, I would have cooked my onion with my hamburger, but I forgot to add it in. So I'm going to go ahead and saute my onions and cook them up. If you want to save time though and add some more flavor to your hamburger, just go ahead and throw it in there. I usually always do that, but it just slipped my mind. So I've mixed those back up together once my onion is finished, and I'm adding that back into my pot that I'm using. And then I'm also going to add in 3 cups of beef broth and 3 cups of instant white rice. But I'm going to go ahead and add in a teaspoon of oregano, and then I'm going to do 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of onion powder,
And then once I do that, I'm going to start adding in my rice. So, like I said, 3 cups of instant white rice. And we're just going to stir that all together and let it start the cooking process until all of the liquid is cooked out and the rice has soaked it up. That way when you put it in the oven, it's just a lot easier and cooks faster. So we're going to go ahead and do that and let it finish cooking through. Stir mine a couple times just to make sure that the rice wasn't sticking and burning on the bottom of this pan. So, you can do that and just check on it a little bit here and there. But once that is almost done and finishing up, we're going to go ahead and start on our cream mixture. So we're going to do 2 cans of cream of mushroom soup. If you've been following me, you'll have heard me say that I prefer Greek yogurt plain over sour cream in my recipes. So I'm going to go ahead and add in about a cup of that. And then after I do that, I'm going to add in about a half a cup of milk and thin this out just a little bit so it won't be as thick and it'll spread evenly over everything better. And I'm going to stir this up really well and make sure that everything is mixed up really good. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to go back over to my hamburger and my rice that's sitting on the stove still, but my burner has been off at this point. And I'm going to go ahead and add in this cream mixture to that and mix this up really well to make sure that it's all coated and everything. Once I've got it mixed up really well and everything's well incorporated evenly, I'm going to go over to my prepared casserole dish, which by that I mean I have sprayed it with cooking spray because this rice is going to stick a little bit around the top edges when it gets done cooking. And I'm going to dump that in there and spread it out evenly. Once I finish doing that, I'm going to go over the top of this with my favorite kind of cheese. So I'm doing sharp shredded cheddar cheese, but really any cheese on top of this would be really good. So once I go over that and get it evenly put on top of there, we are going to go ahead and put this in our preheated oven. I've had it preheating at 375. I'm going to cook it for about 25 to 35 minutes. And once that's done, this is ready to serve. Next, we're going to be making our chicken noodle casserole, so I'm going to be chopping up some fresh carrots. I'm not crazy about canned carrots, so that's why I'm doing this, but feel free to use canned carrots if you want to do that to make this simpler. I'm just chopping it up with my chopper, with my fine blade. Once that's done, I've got my 1.5 pounds of cut up chicken breast here, and I'm just going to cook that in some butter. I'm also going to season this to taste. Feel free to use whatever seasonings you like, but for this, I'm going to do salt, pepper, onion powder, and garlic powder, and paprika. I'm not measuring these out. I'm just going to go over it a few times to taste on how I feel like I want to do this. If you want to use smoked paprika, that would be good. Also, any other seasons you can think of. You can't really go wrong with what you season this with because it's all just going to blend together really well. You just want to make sure that you season your chicken to give it some flavor. But once you finish that and you get it cooked all the way through, then you're going to set this chicken to the side and we're going to start mixing up our cream mixture. And we're also going to be cooking our egg noodles at the same time. I've had a pot boiling and I'm just going to throw those in and cook them. But for my cream mixture, I'm doing 1 can of cream of chicken soup and then 1 can of cream of mushroom soup. If you wanted to do both cans of cream of chicken, that would be fine. But we're going to go ahead and add some seasonings to this. So I'm doing a half a teaspoon of salt. I'm also doing a half a teaspoon of black pepper. But if you feel like that's too much, you can cut it down to a 1/4. I'm going to do a half a teaspoon of garlic powder, a half a teaspoon of onion powder, and then a half a teaspoon of Italian seasoning. I've also got 2 tablespoons of butter here that I've melted, and I'm going to pour that into the mixture as well. And then we are going to go ahead and start stirring this up really good to make sure that everything is incorporated. Next, we're going to add in our fully cooked chicken to that, and I also finished up my egg noodles and strained those as well, and we're going to add those in. And we are also going to add in our cooked carrots. I went ahead and cooked them that way that they would be tender and everything would just really need to get bubbly in the oven. So we're going to mix that up really well, and then once we do that and get the mixture evenly spread over our noodles and everything, we're going to go ahead and put this in our casserole dish. I did go ahead and spray my casserole dish. You can feel free to do that as well to make easier cleanup, but we're just going to dump that right into the casserole dish and spread it out. I've got my oven preheated at 350. And this does need a cup of milk, which I should have added that into my mixture when I was mixing it up, but I forgot. So I just went ahead and dumped that in and stirred it up, and it worked out just as well. I'm going to go ahead and pop this in the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes until it's good and warm and bubbly, and I topped mine with sharp shredded cheddar cheese. Lastly, I'm doing the beef and queso recipe, so I've got my 2 pounds of hamburger here, and I'm just going to chop that up into little fine pieces along with my onions that I've diced, and I'm going to cook those together to give the hamburger extra flavor. Once that's fully mashed up and I have cooked it all the way through, I'm going to go ahead and add 2 packets of my preferred taco seasoning, and I'm just going to cook that to the package of that, so it says add water, and then just cook it until it's all the way cooked out. After that's finished, I'm going to set it to the side, and I'm going to start mixing up all of my other stuff in this bowl. So I'm going to be doing 1.5 cups of half and half. I've got a 1 15-ounce jar of queso dip. Once we do that, we're going to mix this up really well to make sure that it's well incorporated, and then we're going to go ahead and take our 4 cups of instant rice that's already been cooked. I measured it before I cooked it, so 4 cups of uncooked rice, and measure it out and cook it. But once we've got the rice done and cooked, we're going to put it into this mixture and stir it up really well and make sure that the rice is good and coated. And I'm also going to go in with 8 ounces of the block Velveeta cheese, and I'm just going to add 8 ounces of that. If you want to do a second jar of queso dip instead, I think that would make this really good as well, but I just did the Velveeta. And I went ahead and started melting it in the microwave. That way it would stir in really well, so it would go into this casserole evenly and mix in. Next, I'm going to add back in my hamburger meat. I'm going to stir all of this up really well. You do need a large bowl for this, because if you don't, this is going to make a really big mess. Even with a big bowl, this is a lot of stuff, and you need to get it mixed up really well, because when you put it in your casserole dish, it's not going to mix up anymore. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and add this into a greased casserole dish. If you're going to follow this recipe to the portion sizes that I'm doing, you do need a 9x13 pan for this. But I'm going to go ahead and season this with some Kinder's Fajita Blend seasoning. And I'm also going to use the Mrs. Dash. And I'm going to do some Southwest Chipotle seasoning with that. And that's just a taste, and it's optional. Another thing you could do to add extra flavor to this recipe would be to cook your rice in some beef broth. I think that would make it really good as well, but I didn't do that and it was still really good. But once we get that seasoning in there and get it stirred up, we're going to go ahead and evenly layer this out into our casserole dish. I had to move mine to a bigger one, which was 9x13. We are going to go ahead and go over the top of this casserole with Fiesta Blend cheese. That's got taco seasoning in it. If you want to use just regular cheese or whatever you want, that's perfectly fine, but this just gives it a little bit of an extra flavor. We're going to pop this in the oven at 350 and cook it for about 25 to 30 minutes. Once it's hot and bubbly, this is ready to serve. This was delicious. I actually topped mine with fresh tomatoes, and it was so good. I hope you all enjoyed these recipes, and again, thanks for watching.